Get your pitchforks out. It's a crusade, my boys. It's finally happening. Diablo 4 versus Path of Exile. We all knew this day will come, and we know that there can only be one at the end standing.
Over the last 2 days, I have put in 20 hours into Path of Exile. This is not enough to fully
That's a very decent amount.
understand the game, but it is definitely enough to tell you there is some massive differences between this game and Diablo 4.
Yep.
Now, what I said in my review video of Diablo 4, and I do believe continues to be the truth, is that Diablo 4 is actually a game designed and built around entry-level players into the ARPG genre, I of which was one when Diablo 4 came out.
I wouldn't say Diablo 4 is an entry-level genre, because I don't think there's really any such thing in reality, but it is definitely meant to grab as much audience as possible. It is not niche by any extent.
I haven't played many ARPGs. Yeah, I played Lost Ark, and yeah, I played a little bit of Diablo.
That's a good game.
But I wasn't really like a master blaster through any of the ARPG categories.
Okay.
Which makes the fun graph of Diablo 4 look something like this. You start the game right here. As you are leveling towards level 80, you are having more and more fun with the game. Around level 80, the game starts to get more boring because this is where we just do nightmare dungeons over and over and over again.
Yep, and at that point, well, even before level 80, honestly, you have already achieved literally everything gear-wise. The possibility that something new drops that you actually even remotely care about is almost zero here. So, you're literally just grinding for grinding's sake.
And then the game gets way more fun right when you beat Uber Lilith, and then it's right back to grinding nightmare dungeons. So the game is mostly fun from...
And after you beat Uber Lilith, the grinding of the dungeons doesn't even make sense, because there's literally probably nothing you can even find at that point.
From the level 1 to 80 right here, and that is sort of where the game peaks. This would make sense because I think right around level 75, 80 is about where most of the average casual players are going to go. It seems like it's targeted to be this way for whatever reason.
I think, honestly, it's like most people don't even get to level 50. I didn't get to level 50 on Season 1. I'm not gonna lie. I got bored. I think level 40 to 50 just takes way too long, honestly. It's just a grind where you're not really getting any real upgrades. You're not getting enough legendaries for anything to make sense. It feels kind of useless. I think a lot of people quit on Season 1 before level 50, honestly.
And by the way, I think the whatever reason is money, because the majority of players that are going to play these massively marketed games are casual, average, whatever you want to call them, normal
Obviously,
people.
yes.
Not a lot of time, like I've said before. So when you're marketing those types of people, they design the game for those types of people to make the most type of sales, to make the most type of money. Okay, we all probably could have guessed that. For me, the Path of Exile graph looks very different. It starts like right here. Not very fun at all in the beginning. Gets more and more and more and more fun. And then you hit this portion where you see the skill tree for the first time. Now, if you haven't seen it before and you're just a Diablo 4 player, let me actually show you, okay?
Yeah.
Here it is. Oh, no, wait, that's not it.
It's
Here
a lot
it
of
is.
reading.
Let's go all the way out, and you can kind of see, yep, there is.
He's playing a Juggernaut. Oof. I have never played a Juggernaut. I'm literally on this side of the tree. Witches and all of that good stuff. Sometimes Templar, sometimes Ranger, but pretty much never a duelist.
Quite a bit to this skill tree. So they hit that point, and then what happens is a good amount of people are going to shoot down in enjoyability. They're not really going to have a good time because they look at it, it feels overwhelming. Now, some of the people might actually have a split reaction and the enjoyability goes way more up, but
True,
I think a lot of the people that are new...
He's right, but like, it's like 10% of people find that honestly enjoyable. Hey, I have heard tales about people getting to level 50 in Path of Exile and not knowing what links are. They're just using the first start ability and they keep playing. I don't know how that's possible. I have heard about people getting like level 60 and never putting a single skill point in the skill tree because they don't know it exists. It's absolutely wild.
Newer to these types of games are going to look at that and it's going to feel overwhelming. However, PoE, if you push through and you just spend time figuring out and learning the game, it starts to get more and more and more enjoyable. So instead, what we have is something like this, which is
Yeah.
just a steady linear graph of
Yup.
fun as you continue to play through the game.
And one of the reasons that graph, by the way, exists like that, but it doesn't exist in Diablo 4, is because in PoE, you pretty much always will find an upgrade until you get to the point of mapping, and even then you're gonna find upgrades for gear. And finding gear upgrades in these games is, believe it or not, hot take right here, kind of important. And PoE does that very well.
So for Path of Exile, the reason to quit the game is pretty much right in the beginning of the game. Whereas in Diablo 4, the reason to quit the game is after a lot of hours already into the game. This means that
The greatest PoE statistic that ever exists and still exists and is prevalent, by the way, is the fact that the average player gets the hillock and dies, and they stop playing. That is a legit statistics the GGG themselves said. The average person gets the hillock, he claps cheeks, and there you go. And then there's the people who stay and play Path of Exile and somehow are literally so bad they don't understand. Wait a minute, you can literally face roll Hillock on level 1 with any class as long as you just use potions. You don't need to kite him, you don't need to dodge anything, you literally just face tank roll him because potions are gonna out heal his damage. Believe it or not, that's true.
the people that enjoy Path of Exile are people that fairly early decided they like complicated types of games. By the way, I'm having a pretty good time with it. I went in fully blind, and for me, I am able to clear so far. We're going to finish the campaign today, as a matter of fact. So if you want to watch the campaign, just for me clearing the final bosses, you can join right now as of the posting of this video. I'll have the link in the description or the pinned comment to see that live. But the point being, the Path of Exile players will have decided fairly early whether or not they like this style of game. Where in Diablo 4, you're going to need a pretty good amount of time in the game to decide whether or not it's a good game. So this has a...
This is, I think, just a basic thing between niche games and mass appeal games. You know that you have found your type of niche game very early on because it checks a lot of boxes real fast. And Path of Exile does that very fast.
Split effect. The Path of Exile people tend to be more core dedicated fan base. You're going to see there's a lot of people that say a lot of good things about Path of Exile to play it, and the Diablo 4 people, by the time they get to the point that decides whether or not they're going to continue to play the game, they will either really, really like it and have a lot of hours into it and are okay with not having the end game, or they're going to feel cheated by the time they get to the end game and be mad because they've already got 30, 40 hours or whatever into the game, and then they realize there's not as much left at the end, and now they're frustrated because they do actually like the game, but there's nothing to continue to like the game about at that point.
True.
To put it more simply, Path of Exile takes less time for you to decide whether or not you're into this type of game. Diablo will take a while because it seems like the game is really good for a long time until at the end you realize, I do really like this game, I want to double down and play even more, but then there's nothing left to do. Now, it might seem if we're just looking at this graph right here, the Path of Exile, and what I'm saying is the superior, more fun game, but that's actually not quite my point. You see, the drop-off here is actually fairly significant for people in Path of Exile. I do think Path of Exile, if you are a...
The reason why he has only one drop-off, by the way, because he said he hasn't gotten to the end game. The reality is, at the end game, if the graph even has went like this for you, at the end game, there's one point where the graph literally goes underground because you kind of get to the conclusion that, wait a minute, if I want to do the end game bosses and whatnot, chances are I need to use a guide. Most people need to use guides. It is what it is. And most people, if they don't want to use guides, well, that means that they're gonna have to spend like roughly 20 hours reading Wikipedia articles about how crafting and other niche stupid mechanics in PoE work. And that's why the second most interesting fact about Path of Exile is that the average player who doesn't quit after getting clapped by Hillock is gonna quit after defeating Kitava for the first time. Because that's pretty much it. Because the biggest downside of Path of Exile is, and I know Path of Exile players are going to be like, oh, that's not true, but all of you are stupid, okay? Deal with it. Is the fact that if you're playing a Fireball build with whatever, that Fireball build is never gonna feel different or feel different at all at any point. It's gonna be the same Fireball that you're casting from level 1 to, beating Maven. That's the reality of it. There is so little ways to actually change how it feels, it's almost impossible. There are some super niche, unique items that, give like fireballs the ability to then fly back, which is kind of cute and whatnot. But in reality, that's not enough. That is just not enough, and that requires for you to make a whole build around that almost to a certain degree. So yeah, if you're playing Arc, congratulations. The first time you cast Arc is going to feel the exact same time like you're casting Arc for the 20th millionth time. And that's Path of Exile's greatest weakness.
Hardcore ARPG enjoyer has a lot more content to do. I don't think anyone could really argue otherwise. However, the mass amount of people that are going to enjoy that style of game as compared to what I believe is a game designed for the average person is very different. The problem therein lies in the actual content itself. Diablo 4 is going to blow up much bigger and die a much quicker death, whereas Path of Exile, that's been out for 10 years, constantly developing content, is a slow, steady growth pattern of people that are choosing to stay in for years and years and years. There's also one other point to make. If we go back to this graph for a moment, right about here, there is a split dimension in which your enjoyability can go down through the floor. And this is by bricking a character. Now, I am playing the game fully blind. It means I actually don't.
I never heard about this, but I assume it's true. But then again, I have heard about people who literally get to level 60 with one link. And by the way, finishing the campaign with a 2 link is pretty fucking easy, if you actually are using a good base skill. But then again, you can actually unlock it, and pick a witch, kill Hillock, go in, and then pick Blight as your reward. And then the game becomes ass. Because not all skills in PoE are made equal. Oh, no. Not at all. Most skills in PoE are not made equal at all. And your experience by playing something like Blight versus, Explosive Trap is going to be day and night, honestly.
Don't know any guides. I haven't looked anything up. I'm trying to get an experience of the game from somebody that just would download it on Steam and just play a game because it shows up on the Steam store in order to do these types of videos and give a review of what I believe is like the normal average guy. The problem is the normal average guy in Path of Exile, by the time you get to about this point, will have ruined his character and need to start the loop over again. This is a huge moment in which your enjoyability can go through the floor. This basically forces two things. It forces the types of player that would actually want to min-max builds to be able to accelerate their progress effectively, because they're going to be one of the people that don't brick their characters because they actually are looking into the game to look ahead and figure out what to have happen. However, the second portion of this is that dilutes the amount of people on the planet that will enjoy this style of game, because not everyone wants or has the ability to do that in these types of game. That means the overall ceiling in the amount of players for Diablo 4, let's say 4, is going to look like this.
Yeah.
Where right about here is where the total number of players that are going to play for at any given time would be, but Path of Exile will only ever reach right about here.
I mean, in reality, this is Diablo 4. Path of Exile is like something like this. That is reality. That is reality. Again, niche games, niche audiences.
Because D4 was marketed more heavily, therefore going to receive more negative feedback from just more overall people, but also that Path of Exile itself requires a different mentality of game. You can pick up Diablo 4, play it casually for a short amount of time, and have a better experience than someone who does the same amount of research into Path of Exile. Fairly quickly into Path of Exile, you will realize you are being punished for not taking the game as a job. So where does that leave us? Well, basically the conclusion I've come to is this. If you're the type of person that hops from game to game, likes to try out trending games, does not play the ARPG genre solely and is somebody who just wants to see what the latest thing is, try Diablo 4. You're going to get your money's worth out of the game. It is
True.
$70, and you will get...
Niche point, but I fully endorse it. Diablo 4 is worth the money at the end of the day, because even if you get 10 hours of it, I think that's probably good enough for most people. There's so many people that everyone most likely watching this video has bought a game and played it for like 10 minutes and regretted their decisions. Diablo 4, you're going to play it for an hour, but you're still not going to exactly regret the decision. And with the addition of seasons, well, it's definitely going to be worth your money at some point.
Probably 30 or 40 hours of good enjoyability out of it. You can stretch it out to 100, and then at that point, you have received your money's worth. Diablo 4 will probably not be the game for you that is going to be your main game that you play for years straight.
Yep.
Maybe they'll save it with the new seasons. I don't know. I couldn't tell you. But what I will tell you is that Diablo 4 is probably a temporary game that is enjoyable for a certain time span. Path of Exile is a different type of breed. It is the type of game that the longer you spend in it, the more you get into the community, the more and more you get into min-maxing. And if you're the type of person that doesn't want to put 100 or 200 hours, you want to put 1,000 or 2,000 hours into a game, then Path of Exile is for you. Or if you are ARP...
I'll rephrase this a little bit so it's a little bit more understandable and gets to the point. Path of Exile is definitely for you if you enjoy the idea of beating a harder and harder and harder and harder challenge by getting your character stronger. If you like that idea and concept, Path of Exile is a good game for you.
RPG enjoyer that wants to just go absolutely crazy in these types of games or feel like you're the only one on the planet that has your build, that is Path of Exile. But again, it's going to require much more time, much more dedication, many more hours to get that max enjoyability out of it. They're different types of games within the same genre, but they appeal to different people, which is, I believe, why we see such a large amount of arguments between PoE greater than D4, D4 greater than PoE. They're offering different products for different type of game enjoyers.
True. That's pretty much literally on point. It's completely different products. The start was a lie. These games can easily coexist, by the way. I wonder how people took that as a serious start to the video. Well, it is what it is. Anyway, good video, interesting. I think a lot of people are just gonna do it like I do it. You're gonna play PoE when the new league comes out. You're gonna play Diablo 4 when the new season comes out, and at some point you're gonna drop it. Maybe you feel something this time. Maybe you want to push it, and you're gonna go harder. It depends. At least we have variety, because the reality is, PoE players, after the first 2 weeks of a league, the game has lost like 80% of its player base, or well, not maybe 80%, but league starts, graph goes player up a lot. League 1 week in, down. League 2 weeks in, it's starting to stabilize. That's how pretty much PoE works. They have shared these graphs a lot. Anyway, this was Quizzer Sense, and thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already, and have a nice day. Bye bye.